This is Outside of New York. In-depth discussions with members of the art world who live and work outside of New York. And here's your host, Craig Gould.
Camp Bosworth is a Marfa-based artist who utilizes wood carving to create sculptures and paintings that reflect the world around him. Often carved and sometimes gilded in gold and silver, these pieces almost always utilize scale to create humor and interest. A native-Texan, Camp received his BFA in painting from the University of North Texas and worked in Dallas until relocating to Marfa in 1999. Camp has since become one of the de facto artists of record in that West Texas art mecca. The themes he explores range from drug cartels to boomboxes to the small-town Texas Dairy Queen. He regularly exhibits his work throughout the Southwest, including the Webb Gallery in Waxahachie, where I was recently able to sit down with Camp to discuss growing up in Texas, the influence of Claes Oldenburg, why it's better to go big, how Marfa has evolved over the last 20 years, the oddities of interacting with busloads of tourists, giant gilded guns, and steak finger baskets. Awesome. So I haven't really had a chance to look around here. I think I had seen, some of the stuff I'd seen was unpainted, but this is, so is everything in the show painted?
Well, maybe the things that you saw that were unpainted were, I originally started with these dipped cones, but they were just raw cedar.
Right.
And so I have a number of them over there on that table there.
And I remember seeing the cassette tapes before.
Yeah. I tend to paint everything, and I'm always telling myself, no, I'm gonna just leave it raw wood, show all the, and then I'm painting it and cursing myself. But I kind of can't help myself. Right. I try to, I just have to finish things a little bit further.
Yeah. So is that your painting background that
makes you want to do that?
Yeah.
No, it's probably just your OCD.
Right.
You just can't leave it alone. I put it away, it's finished.
Right.
And then I'd sneak back in the studio and dabble more on it. And then, you just kind of, it's in your brain, you kind of, it'd be just a little bit better if I did this.
Right.
But, as they say, you can run more things by adding 25 cents of paint than you save them.
Oh, I know.
But,
I mean, that's...
there was a big painting down at the end there, and that DQ part I added, I cut the part for it, the piece for it, the morning we were leaving.
Right.
Because I was the night before, I was like, it needs the logo.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's shit like that. And then I started a big, 2 days before we left, I started a big blizzard that was 3.5 feet tall out of a big log, and it was going to be a Pop Rocks blizzard. Right. Which they don't make, but I thought it was a funny idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I got about halfway through, and I was like, I can't finish it.
Right.
I got to pack the truck.
Yeah.
So I kind of can't help it. I worked, I just can't stop working.
I understand. But this, I want to take time to talk about this work, but I usually kind of back up and start. I mean, you're a native-Texan.
Yes. I was born in Galveston.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you grow up in Galveston, or?
I only spent I think 3 years there.
You're right.
Yeah. Or probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And then
we moved to San Diego for a few years, and then to Wisconsin for a few years, and then back to Texas.
Okay. So when did you get back to Texas? What age were you?
I was in 4th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had your share of formative years in Texas.
Yeah, most everything is Texas, and I relate. I mean, I would say I am definitely Texan.
Right.
Like how I think about things and behave. And
sure. So when you guys came back from the frigid weather of the north, where did you guys wind up settling?
We moved to Clifton, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in the hill country. It's like about 2,000 people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we lived there for a few years, and then we moved to Cleburne, Texas, and that's where I went to middle school and high school in Cleburne.
Right.
But Texas.
And was art always part of it? Or?
No, I didn't. I always, did art. I drew, and I made a lot of model airplanes and cars and stuff. When I was little. Probably even through grade school.
Right.
Probably to junior high, I was making models, And then I would always fuck around in class and draw cartoons to my friends and pass notes. But that was just something I did. And then I did my senior year of high school, and it was probably more because I thought, like, I could get out of something else. But I took an art class.
Uh-huh.
And I really, really liked it.
Awesome.
And it was one of the only classes I made an A in, and it was really easy. But I didn't think I should be an artist.
Right.
It wasn't until I went to college for 2 years. I was in a fraternity, and I was actually pre-med, but it just wasn't working. I didn't like it at all. And so I dropped out of school for a semester, and I was like, I'm going to be an artist.
Yeah.
That's really
So was it North Texas the whole time?
No, I started at Stephen F. Austin.
Oh, okay.
And then I graduated from North Texas.
Right. So you figure out that all those bio and chemistry courses weren't...
They weren't. My dad's a doctor, so
right.
I did well on my SAT or whatever, and and I definitely always have an interest in it,
right.
And it was just, I just knew a lot about it from my dad being a doctor, and going rounds with him into the hospital. So it was I thought that's what I wanted to do, but it was more studying than I wanted to do,
right.
And also I was in a fraternity which was more drinking than I should have been doing, So the two didn't really go together,
right. So when you decided to go back, so how did you choose North Texas? Did you know somebody there? Or?
Well, it was just like the best art school in Texas.
Right.
That's what basically everybody said. So I thought, well, I'm going to go there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so you got your BFA there, and was it mainly painting?
I got my BFA in painting and drawing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so.
And a minor in English Lit, so I knew I wouldn't have anything to fall back on.
Right.
If I failed as an artist,
But sometimes we have to build those scenarios for ourselves to succeed, right?
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, with a minor in law, that wouldn't work because that's a legitimate career.
Right.
Yeah.
But
writer or a artist, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you ever write? I mean, do you ever contribute to Glass Tire or anything
I don't,
on the side?
I'm not much of a writer. I mean, I journal a little bit, and I like to read a lot.
Right.
I like to read other people's writing.
Sure.
But whenever I have to write anything for myself, I feel like I can, at least articulate what I'm trying to say. But I wouldn't want to be a writer for anybody.
Right.
At least I don't think so. Unless someone really encouraged me.
Right.
Wrongly, probably encouraged me.
So at North Texas, I assume that was a pretty formative experience for you, right?
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
And so it did. At what point did you figure out, the secret sauce that's in that we can recognize in all your work now? Were you in college at that point, or when did it become your style, or your version of what?
Yeah, I would say that what I started feeling like I am really finding my voice. It would be probably at least, I graduated in 89, so that would probably have to be in the early 90s.
Right.
Because when I graduated from North Texas, I was kind of doing these Frank Stella-esque, Kenny Scharf-esque wall sculptures.
Okay.
They kind of stuck off the wall, and they had, just big swirls and abstract shapes, and kind of like the cosmos exploding.
Sure.
And so, but they did, they didn't feel truly me. And then I was also started doing like these kind of abstract pattern paintings, which, were actually really, like, people really liked them, and I really liked them. But I didn't really. I got into this thing where I was going to do. I think I did like 250 paintings or more of these abstract kind of mosaic kind of pieces.
Okay.
And but in my sketchbooks and stuff, I would draw my coffee cups, and I would draw my dog, and I'd just draw things that weren't patterns. And so that stuff just started. I got to this point. I think I was going to try to do a painting a day, even though sometimes I might do several paintings, and sometimes I might sleep in.
Right.
And at one point, I kind of just started to burn out on making these pattern paintings. And that's when I just started doing like these funny, realistic paintings,
sure,
of like just whatever's in front of me, and so yeah. Then I just started. That's when I really started just drawing out of my sketchbook and just making a piece of art that looks like something I drew.
Sure.
Instead of trying to refine it or like look at art forum and try to make it fit what I think a curator or a New York gallery would want.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when
here I am.
When I look, when I look around this space, and when I look at your work online, I guess we always like try to compare ourselves or try to figure out what influences, and I think of Red Grooms, and I wonder if that was, am I right in making that connection, or is there, is that some sort of is that a fair comparison?
I'm a fan of Red Grooms for sure. I don't know how much Red Grooms is a influence. Probably. Really for an influence would be Claes Oldenburg.
Oh, sure.
And when I was a little kid, we went to the Chicago Art Institute, and there was a Claes Oldenburg show there. And that was probably early 70s.
Right.
And that was like a real eye-opener because that's art.
Right.
Art is a giant eraser or a pocket knife.
Yeah, that was going to be my other question. It was like, how... there's that one part where you think of like the painted reliefs, and there's this kind of Americana aspect, but the other part of your work is this whole issue of scale, right?
Yeah.
And Oldenburg was all about scale.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And so, what I assume scale is important to you. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
What speaks to you about is just bigger better, or
no? It's more just like if it's out of scale, then I think it becomes that's where the humor is. I usually make things bigger than, and that kind of in reverse makes you smaller.
Right.
So it makes it childlike, makes you childlike, because from a child's perspective, everything's a lot bigger. So that's what I think maybe some of the humor and the whimsy kind of, that's what people pick up on, because the scale is kind of off. So I think things that either have to be too large or too big, or too small.
Well, it's funny because look, I'm a Texan. I grew up around here. Every